Nicole, Rhoda, Ivy, how the hell are you ladies doing on this fine Saturday?
Hey, yo. So good to be here.
Wax, vax, and ready to go.
Let's go around the room. Nicole, want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nicole Eichenberg. I'm a potato. Hi.
Rhoda, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Rhoda Ramon, coming to you from Lodi, California.
Yes. Oh, Lord. Stuck in Lodi again.
209. Boop, boop.
Woo. And last but certainly not least, Ivy.
Hi, Ivy Cordova here. I'm currently coming to you guys from Oakland, but I reside in lovely Hayward, California.
Nice. Hayward. Love it. I am in North Sacramento, just outside of Del Paso Heights, just outside of Arden Arcade. It's like this little area that's right next to the freeway. So everyone loves coming over because it's so easy to get here. Right, Nicole? Like that anyone anytime someone comes over, they're like, holy shit, it was so easy to get here. So I am here and we are here to discuss the top 90 female R&B albums of the 90s. So like we always have to I always gotta get real specific. I say like it's not solo, it's not only solo, it's not only bands, it's like if the female was the lead on the album, let's talk about it. And I realized that like I straddle a fine line between like pop and R&B. So Nicole, was this list hard to put together?
Not at all. And I actually inadvertently made all girl groups as my list. And I literally just realized that, but it's cool. I'm going to roll with it.
All right, nice. Ivy, what about you? Ivy, in the 90s, did you ever have to tell someone I should have left your ass 1,000 times?
I remember that. That's funny now that I think about it, because one of the things I was talking about, that is a quote from a movie. I love, dude, that's when all the real good music came, like all the body rolls, all the things. Like even the cheating, even the songs about cheating were like, you could body roll to this, you could body roll to the side chick anthem. I was listening to Moke and Steph in the car on the way here. He's mine. I was just like, he might be doing you, but he's thinking about me. Buckle up, Jacob. And then talking to my kid. He's like, Mama girl.
Oh man.
You could cry and body roll at the same time.
Poor kid.
Rhoda, was the best 90s R&B stuff about making sweet love or about breaking up? What was the best stuff about?
Cheating.
I think like there's a recurring theme in my list, where I think a lot of it is just about, the 90s for the most part was such a decade of prosperity. So it was just about like, even if you fucking cheat, I'm still gonna go out and party. And even if we're in love, we're gonna party. And so I feel like all of it is good.
The 90s were definitely a great time in music. Just like where production was at that point. And like so many of like the young stars of the 80s just became like these super producers. Like we had like Babyface, we had like Dallas Austin Green, we had like Jermaine Dupri, of course.
Can I interject? I think you combined Dallas Austin and Brian Austin Green from 90210.
I was wondering, I'm like, hold up.
I was like,
I combined like the two most opposite people.
Chili Baby Daddy's middle name is Brian.
Yeah, Dallas Austin. It's gonna be that kind of show, you guys. I'm so excited. There's so much I want to talk about.
Just to nerd out, just based on what you said, if you want to read a really great or sad, amazing book, you've got to read Love is a Mixtape by Rob Sheffield. He goes on to make an argument. It's not about music in the 90s, but he goes on so much to make an argument about how he truly believes that music in the 90s is the greatest generation of music, and has a really good explanation why. The book is sad, but it's so good. I would highly recommend it. It's called Love is a Mixtape. He's a writer for Rolling Stone magazine.
Did Rob Sheffield also write Talking to Girls About Duran Duran? Was that his book?
Yeah, that was his follow-up book to Love is a Mixtape.
Yeah. Rob Sheffield is great. Him and like Anthony DeCurtis, great Rolling Stone writers who also just write about the times that this music was created. So yeah, the 90s were
true
great.
Music lovers.
Yeah, I worked at a record. I worked at a Warehouse Records. It was kind of like Tower Records, But
I know that.
I worked at a warehouse record from 92 to 99. And just like the music that we got, like I wasn't an R&B guy when I started working there. I wasn't a jazz guy when I started working there. And by the time I left, I was like, so like, I don't know, that was kind of like college for me, was that that time frame. So
Yeah.
all right, man. Let's jump right into it, man. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start. We're gonna go in order. We're gonna go our number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're also gonna visit the Facebook post and see what some of the people were writing in and saying what their top 5s were. I'm not gonna mention them if they were whack. But a couple of people had really great lists, so we'll mention those lists. So are you guys ready to go?
Let's do this.
All right, let's go ahead. So you guys are like, cool. This is the way I'm looking at it. So I'm going at the top. We're gonna start with you, Nicole. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is From the Bottom Up by Brownstone.
Ah, yes.
Yes, and
Nice.
my anthem for so much, even of my adult life, is If You Love Me. That song has been remixed like a ton of times. Like, it still holds up. It has that like angsty, unrequited love feel. It's still my anthem. I love it to death.
Nice. Brownstone. God, I can still picture that album cover. This is such a great album. All right, Nicole's number 5 is Brownstone, From the Bottom Up. Ivy, what is your number 5?
My number 5 has got to be TLC. Ooh, on the TLC tip.
Ooh.
That was an awesome. That was probably one of the best albums I listened to, because I spent part of middle school in San Diego, right? So I've grown up primarily in Bay Area, but we lived in San Diego for 1 year for my father's job. And in middle school in San Diego, and they also have this in high school, it's a whole thing. It's something called air bands. And so air bands is basically people lip syncing and doing dance choreography routines to songs. And one of the songs that somebody did, two different groups of people did Hat to the Back. And that was like, girls sing like this? They rap this? They're singing and rapping? Like, it was really awesome. And it was 6th grade, so like 11 years old. So that was probably like one of the first times I ever got interested in music that my parents weren't playing. You know, so that was like really the tape that started it all for me. And I said a tape because that's what I had.
Yeah, I think you touched on something right there that's so important in like anyone's musical evolution, is when you first break from your parents' music and discover something that you call your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've always said that's what your definition of rock and roll is. Like, the first time that you play something that your parents are like, what is this garbage? They're like, it's mine, is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way of putting it. Because before that, all I was listening to was Huey Lewis. Like, that's totally different. I was like, oh, there's rhythm. Oh shit, okay.
Oh man. So that's TLC's debut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what? I listened to it the other day. Because I was like, TLC like could arguably have 3 albums in this, you know. And I opted to go in a different direction. Okay. TLC, ooh, on the TLC tip. Rhoda, what is at the tip of your list? Number 5.
Okay, so I gotta do a disclaimer. My number 5 was so impossible for me to determine because it was between Aaliyah's 2 albums and What's the 411 by Mary J. Blige. And I could not make a decision, so I had to take the poll to the gram. And the gram determined that my number 5 is going to be Aaliyah's 1 in a Million. So it came out in 1996. We talked about producers. This was produced by Missy Misdemeanor Elliott. We got Timberland up in there. And I do think that this is a really good album because I think her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, really kind of like exploded. So much of that album was fire when I was listening to it. It's a great album. I think 1 in a Million is so much more about her trying to find her own image. We all know what happened with R. Kelly. And so I think that it was her really trying to find herself as an artist. And she hits all the good notes. We were talking about like 1 in a Million, such a great track. If Your Girl Only Knew, 4-Page Letter. So you've got all this like teen angst going on. You've got Falling in Love for the first time going on. And I think that she was just really trying to break away from like, you know, the side part with the hair in her eye and the glasses all the time and just really coming out and and trying to explore like her own image and her own thing. The only caveat to that is that her estate currently has all rights, and so it's almost impossible to stream it online. So I would say that's one downside, that the new generation of people trying to look into Aaliyah and see who she is are at a disadvantage until her estate decides to go ahead and release that music onto streaming platforms. But if you are able to find it, the album is fire. It's a beautiful record, and it's my number 5.
Yeah, it's great. I was looking for it online too the other day, because Aaliyah is one of those artists that like she was just taken from us way too soon, and you hit on some really big points there. Of like, I like last night I couldn't help but think, well, like, wonder what Aaliyah's 3rd and 4th album would have sounded like when she fully was in, because like that first album she had probably little input. And like how you said, the second album was more of her voice, but what would it have been like when she was in complete control and was able to just come with her own ideas? We'll never know. And but
well, just in like when she died, unfortunately, she was a star in the Ascent. She was a multi-tool player. She was doing like Romeo Must Die. I think
that's
she
right.
was going to do that part that ultimately went to Jada Pinkett Smith and The Matrix, and was just, being taken too early, like so many people were. But great artist.
Yeah, great artist. Aaliyah, 1 in a million. Damn, we've already hit some really super artists just in the start off. Okay, so my number 5, man, like I said, I used to work at a record store, and like the radio DJs would come in, because like one of the girls I was working with was dating one of them, and like they would come in and like just pick up albums and like drop off stuff to us. And one day my friend Cynthia, her boyfriend came in, and he was a DJ, and he was like, oh shit, I almost forgot. Does anybody want to go see Tony Braxton tonight? And I was like, are you kidding me? And he's like, oh, here, so you want to go? And he gave me 2 tickets, and Tony Braxton was opening up for Frankie Beverly and Maze. And 2nd row at the Universal Amphitheater. And it was like right as before I forget, Tony Braxton's debut album is my number 5. And it was right when like that album had been out for maybe about 5 or 6 months. So it was like Tony Braxton still like out to prove herself. And like thinking about like what her mindset must have been like her album is starting to take off, and she's doing a show in Los Angeles, California. Like, she's going to bring it, and she did. And I was so blown away that night. So my number 5 is Tony Braxton's. I don't know, what is the debut album called? It is called, it's just Tony Braxton Self-Titled. Yeah. So Tony Braxton Self-Titled is my number 5. And I love, I think 7 Whole Nights is my favorite track on that album. Yeah, 7 Whole Days is, but it's got some bangers. Another Sad Love Song, of course, Breathe Again. And yeah, Tony Braxton. Nicole, Nicole, what do you have at number 4?
Okay, so this is kind of a weird situation. I put Off the Hook by Escape as my number 4. I needed to have something with Candy on there, because Candy is such an amazing singer, such an amazing songwriter. She's written for TLC, Destiny's Child, Pink. I mean, she won Masked Singer like last year or the year before. Amazing, amazing artist. That was an amazing album. Like, it was smooth like butter. Just love that girl to death and everything she does.
So it's Escape, right? Escape?
Escape. Yeah, hell yeah.
What was the name of the album?
Escape, baby.
Off the Hook.
I love how nice was like everything was like off the hook, off the chain. Well,
something, yeah. Yeah, and I knew to spell it with the X. It's the X Escape. Yeah.
Escape, baby.
Escape. All right. Ivy, what do you have at number 4?
That's so funny that you brought up Escape, because mine was also Escape, but my album is the Coming at Ya. I think that was the one before it. I think that was their debut, because again, this is something that came out when I was in middle school. We had just come back from the year that we spent in San Diego, and everybody was talking about kick off your shoes and relax your feet. I was like, bruh, I mean, seventh grade is hard. Like, I wanted to relax my too. It was really fantastic.
It's like, you know what they're saying, but you're not 100% sure you know what they're saying.
Exactly. Right? I'm just like, I didn't know. Like, I was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to sit down and relax and not think about homework for a change. And it was crazy because all of my older cousins, they were always the ones that were listening to this stuff while, we were driving around in the car. They were taking us to practice and things like that. And I was just like, yeah, I do want to relax.
Just kicking, just settle down.
How'd you like San Diego? Were you old enough to like really enjoy San Diego, or?
I think in retrospect, I'm like, this is an awesome place to raise kids. I mean, I'm glad that I came back to Hayward because that's where my friends were. But for context, I went to middle school in Rancho Penasquitos, which is like North San Diego, super bougie neighborhood. We lived on the poor side, and I was the only Filipino kid in my class whose father was not in the military. Like, I would have people coming up to me like, "Do you guys live on base?" I was like, "The base of what? Like a hill? Like, is there?" I didn't know, but it was. I didn't really appreciate it much when I was there, aside from the beaches, because you're sixth grade, like you're 11 years old, you don't want to get ripped away from your friends, or you're like, fuck my parents, or excuse me, but yeah, like it was really, it was, when I think about it now in retrospect, I'm just like, it was a nice experience to have because it was very very like what you imagine middle schools to be on TV. There's actual buses that aren't just for field trips, and there's like Pop Warner football and air bands and things that we don't have up here. So it's an experience. Yeah.
I love San Diego, and it's like if I could like just relocate to anywhere I could, I think San Diego is very high on that list. I love San Diego, so I'm always curious to see if is it just me who likes San Diego? I think everybody likes San Diego.
Yeah, I think I like it more as an adult than I did as a kid.
All right. Okay, Rhoda, what do you have at number 4?
Well, I know that anybody that knows me at all knows that I've got to have a Destiny's Child album on here because Beyonce is my queen. So for number 4, I have 1999's Writings on the Wall by This was before the big drama with them kicking out 2 of their members and getting 2 more members and kicking out one of those. My reflection on this album is it's very 90s. I would not say that it's timeless. It's I remember reading something from Dave Holmes, who used to host TRL, and was just talking about how Destiny, there was nothing particularly special about them when they came out because you had Escape, you had Black, you had, what was it, like 702, and but there was always something about Beyonce. There was always something about their undeniable factor that she was a star. And I think that's relevant when you listen to stuff like Bills, Bugaboo. The bangers on the track are 100% bangers. It's got a lot of hits on that album. So, Say My Name is still huge. You saw when she's singing in Homecoming, just how everyone fucking exploded about it. And I think that they were like on the cusp of really, because their next album was going to be like when it kind of all came together. And so I think that's why I chose that as my number 4.
Yeah, I think I really do think you touched on something there that about what Dave Holmes said, that it wasn't like we kind of took Destiny Child for granted, like because there was so much great R&B at that time, and we're just like, oh, another great R&B act. But I think like what really helped us see like how great Destiny's Child was at their prime, at the height, was a couple of years ago when she reunited Destiny's Child for that brief moment at Coachella. Do you remember that?
I remember Coachella, and I also remember when she reunited them at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you remember that?
You really watch, like, everyone makes fun of Michelle, but I think that she actually has had a lot of success in gospel music. But when you look at like Kelly is like, she's still crazy hot. She's always been talented, and I think her only thing was that she didn't have the same kind of guidance that Beyonce had. It's kind of like a Justin Timberlake, JC Chazé kind of thing. We're just like really talented, but always compared on her own amazing talent. But unfortunately, she's always paired with Beyonce, who is just, I mean, everybody knows how I feel about Beyonce. She's just everything. She's the wind beneath my wings. And so, in retrospect, you see, but I love it. It's still a great album.
Destiny's. I was wondering if you were gonna sneak a Destiny's Child in
Oh,
there.
everybody knew I was going to. Come on. Maybe they didn't think it was going to be at number 4. They probably thought I was going to do it at number 1, but
Right.
everybody knew.
I made that assumption myself.
Yeah. Please.
Okay, my number 4 is it kind of crept into my top 5 probably just yesterday when I was like really looking at stuff and like trying to find something. I'm always like, oh, and like when I think of these topics, I think in my brain, I think I know what I want, but then I start actually something that I'm really bad at is like listening to what other people have to say. And so I started seeing like what popping up on other lists, and something kept popping up, and I was like, well, let me go see if everybody could be right, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And dude, the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack is fucking phenomenal. And I wanted to find a way to sneak some Whitney Houston on here. I definitely wanted the Bodyguard soundtrack to only have Whitney Houston songs.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Good.
It's got a couple of songs, like it's got a fucking Kenny G song and like a Curtis Stigers and a Michael Bolton maybe. I'm like, what the fuck? Who did this? Like, why didn't they just make it an all Whitney Houston soundtrack? But this Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, fucking everyone is on it.
Yeah. Brandy.
Yeah. Mary J.
Mary J. Yeah.
You had Patti LaBelle. You had Whitney on here,
or duets and stuff like that. Like that movie.
Everyone's talking about how they deviate away from like, and I have to say, I don't have teen parents, but I had young parents, and so they were into this, so they were rocking this soundtrack all day.
Yeah,
because we're talking about like in the 90s, they were in their early 30s.
Yeah,
and so this was their music, this was their jam, so we were rocking that all the time.
I've been like, I was I think probably in middle school or early high school when like Waiting to Exhale came out. So I was all about the soundtrack. And as I got older, the context of the actual movie made sense. So one of the things that me and my mom routinely yell in the house just for no reason is, get your shit, and get out. And then sometimes when me and my friends are trying to eat healthy, like we have a group text that the title of the group text is Have a Fruit Bowl Tramp. And that's what we text every time we're trying to keep each other accountable for eating healthy. And that's how you know how old we are, because that's a Waiting to Exhale reference, right? But
I just recently went back and watched the movie a couple weeks ago, actually, and trying to prepare for this podcast, and just looking at like, dang, it was fuckboys back in the
90s. I know, that's right.
I gotta point this out. I'm looking at the information on Wiki. Babyface is credited as the writer for every one of the songs on this soundtrack.
Word, wow.
Yeah, Babyface was the shit. Still is Babyface.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Waiting to Exhale is my number 4. Nicole, what do you have at number 3?
It wouldn't be a list of 90s R&B females without a little SWV.
Yes.
SWSV. Anyway, so I picked It's About Time, which has right here on it. That song is perfect for like today's weather, driving with the cars down, just chilling. Week is on there too. It's an amazing ballad. It's, oh my God, yes, I love their vocals.
Such a great song.
Yes, I love them. I love that album.
Yeah, that's such a great album. And SWV, like, as much as like Warren G and Nate Dogg get credit for making the Above the Rim soundtrack great, I mean, that SWV track on the Above the Rim soundtrack was also part of what made that such a great soundtrack. So I think 90s R&B soundtracks are something that should also be visited in the future. Just throwing that out there. Okay, SWV. Ivy, what do you have at number 3?
Dude, number 3. This was really hard because Janet Jackson is my queen of a lot of things. I mean, hello, no, my first name ain't Baby. But I had to pick one. And so the one that I landed on was Janet, the title, the album title Janet. Because, again, this is something that I was like probably late middle school, early high school. And aside from Anytime, Any Place, which I had no business slow dancing to in 8th grade. Like, You Want This? That was an awesome video about, just getting with your girlfriends and going to the desert and dancing circles around dudes and fucking just leaving them. That's everything that I've aspired to be as an adult. Like but it's just a great song. Like it was probably like, I mean, Rhythm Nation was really like socially conscious, especially for that time. But I think a little young to understand a lot of that in context. And so the Janet album in comparison just felt fun, and this is probably like around the same time where she had that Rolling Stone, or somebody holding her boobs or what. I think it was. I remember thinking, that's so scandalous. Oh my God. But it was, one of my favorite albums, hands down.
Yeah. I visited the Janet catalog, but it was just so overwhelming when I tried to pick just one.
Right.
I couldn't do it. I backed out. I couldn't even fuck with it. I backed out. You're tougher than I am, because I couldn't settle. Like we didn't know that already. I couldn't settle.
And then Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, like, come on, man.
That's what I was trying to remember.
That's
when
a dream team.
Brian Austin Green comment. That's what I was trying to remember. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Yeah, those guys could do no wrong. Where are we at? Rhoda, number 3.
Okay, so for number 3, I gotta just slip this in here real quick like that. So you all know where I'm coming from. I chose for my number 3 spot 1994's Crazy Sexy Cool by TLC.
Yes.
Creep, Digging on You, Red Light Special, and of course the big jam, Bring Down the House, their signature song, Waterfalls. This is their second album. I really think, what Avi was talking about in her number 5 pick, I think that at that point in their album, they were these young, crazy kids that wanted to talk about like safe sex and just having fun and partying, right? I think that Crazy Sexy Cool was so much about like, I think the reoccurring theme with my list is when artists hit that stride and find out who they are and really think about like who they are as images, and that kind of just sets them over the edge. I think it's in terms of girl groups, I think that they're the perfect blend of like their personalities are fired together, their voices are fired together. They had all of these elements, and it was really hard to pick which one you thought was the most talented. And unlike Destiny's Child, there was no person where you're like, that's the star. That's, because they all were these like really dynamic, powerful females. And I think like stylistically, all their videos were amazing. And we all know the drama that came behind that. Left Eye burnt her boyfriend's house down. They went bankrupt. Pebbles fucked him over, etc. And so I think, and going back and listening, I do see like how much influence I see now on a lot of the female artists that I really like with that album. You have Beyonce's If I Was Your Girlfriend, that references to that album are in there all the time. And going back and really listening to the album, I realized that from start to finish, it's just fire.
Yeah. The TLC on the Crazy Sexy Cool was one of those albums where like when I worked at the record store, like there was like the rocker guy, there was like the metal girl, there was like the pop person, there was like the jazz person. But like Crazy Sexy Cool was one of the records that like everybody agreed on. They're like, oh, let's play that. All right, let's play that. And it was just such a fun way to spend 53 minutes listening to that record. I love it. Starts off, is it Fife at the very beginning doing like the little rap intro?
I think so.
Have a crush on Dawn from In Vogue. Yes, I mean, it's such a great record. I can't think of, that's crazy because I'm my number 3 is also TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool. We have the same number 3, Rhoda.
All right.
So, and I think what I was thinking right now is like how you were saying that like together they were better than like together, like the sum of their parts are greater, right? Because unlike with Destiny's Child, where like one of them broke out, like even like afterwards, like neither one of them, like I don't know if they attempted a solo career but there wasn't ever like none of them like had success like individually. Like it was just them as a group, and that was it, and then of course again tragedy striking, and
Well, I even think now, like, because I think T-Boz and Chili have really tried to stay together, but even now it's just kind of like it's not the same without Left Eye.
Yeah,
And I feel like if any of that had happened to any one of them, it would have been like, oh, it's not the same without T-Boz, that's the same without Chili kind of thing.
yeah. Okay. TLC, crazy, sexy, cool. Um, wow, we're at number twos already. Cole, what is your number two?
Okay, so don't laugh, but my number 2 is Crazy Sexy Cool. Because that album, I mean, it's like the CGI in the Waterfalls video was so ahead of its time. That song was so socially conscious. Like, I mean, that really was, like you guys said, one of my like rock and roll albums. Like, wow, it's like these chicks are really cool. It's like they're talking about things that actually matter. They're real people. And I think had Left Eye not died so tragically young, I think they could have made a very successful comeback and done amazing things even up to this day.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Ivy, what do you have at number two?
Okay, 92. I'm gonna go back a couple of years and talk about Mariah Carey's self-titled debut album, Mariah Carey. I mean, this is probably the first time that again, like riding in the car, going to like lessons and various things when you're a kid. You're like for me, I was exposed to like Huey Lewis, like the oldie station, KFRC, whatnot. When this album came out, dude, every last one of it. This is probably the first time that me and my cousins, like we still do this now. We would be singing in the car to all the songs, and including trying to hit that high note, which of course none of us could do because that is whistle register. But I remember like being, I think this is 1990s, so I was probably like 9, like maybe 9 or 10, like belting out "Love Takes Time," "I Don't Want to Cry," and I'm just like, I wonder if it's ever possible to feel this way in real life, which of course you find out as an adult, but not when you're fucking 9 years old, right? So but I love Mariah just in general, like even through her crazy taking off her clothes and giving out ice cream during TRL. I love Mariah no matter what. I'm one of her lambs for sure. But this is the album for me that started all like my whole like 90s like love ballads kind of thing.
I freaking love, so like with like music, it's like female, like there's Madonna, and then just underneath Madonna there's Mariah Carey. And my niece makes fun of me because like we go on road trips. Of course, I'm in charge of the music, and Vision of Love slips into every playlist I make, and she like laughs. Like I try not to make eye contact with her when it comes on, but so Mariah recently reissued all of her catalog on vinyl, and I was fucking checking the tracking every fucking day. Like I could not wait. Hold on, I got to show them. I got to.
Now you have to. You kind of just have to now.
Yeah.
I see Prince looking at me like, hey. I'm nosy. Like I always like that's the first thing I do whenever I go to somebody's house is I look at what pictures they have up in their living room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's family or Prince.
Oh, you'd bug out in this living room.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, my eyes.
Yeah. Oh, duh.
It's like it's backwards.
There it is.
Yes. That's my girl.
Look at that on colored vinyl. Oh, it's so good. But check this one out.
Was that expensive? That's crazy.
No, it's not.
That's good.
No, it's not. No, I'm cheap. I'm frugal.
Frugal. That's a better way of putting it.
And then this one.
Oh, MTV Unplugged. They got to bring that back.
But check this out.
There is nothing like the acoustic versions of songs.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Oh, gorgeous.
To get on that.
Look, I like to think she's smiling at me right there.
She's like,
she can't be. She can't.
Like, who's that guy in the front row, fucking singing every single word louder than me? But yeah. and the reason I didn't put Mariah on my list is like I kind of thought it was just me being selfish and wanting to include all my friends in the list. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna back up because I'll eventually do a podcast only about Mariah, and I already know who one of my guests will be. Ivy, you will be with me. Mariah Carey's self-titled. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk about Mariah. Yeah, and then remember like how great the Unplugged was when it came out with the fuck.
I
And
always think of like Mariah Carey and Nirvana are the two unplugs that I think
Yes,
are like
you
the
gotta
ones
bring
that
that.
I think of the most.
You gotta bring that
yeah,
back.
definitely. And I think that's a Rhoda. I kind of want to do a top 5 MTV Unplugs.
Nice.
Yeah.
We already know the first two.
Yeah. All right. Rhoda, what is your number 2?
Okay, well, I got to keep the Mariah Carey train rolling because I wrote a whole thing about it. So we're going to keep talking about MC. You have self-titled in 90, 91 you have Emotions, 92 Unplugged, 93 you've got Music Box, 94 you've got her Christmas album, 95 you got Daydream, 97 you've got Butterfly, 98 you've got her number ones, and 99 you've got Rainbow. So you're talking about one of the most prolific artists of all time. She is the best female artist of all time. She is the best selling solo artist of all time and the second best-selling artist of all time, second only to the Beatles. She has the most number ones, only second to the Beatles, and she still has the opportunity to surpass that goal. And so there was no way that I could leave MC off this list. Like I said, I have young parents. The self-titled album and Emotions from 91 were always on our airwaves. We're always playing those. But for me, I could have been a fuck boy and just said 1998's number one albums. But what I decided to do was I went with 1997's Honey or Butterfly.
Yes.
That is such a fucking, we're talking so much in my list about the evolution of an artist, and especially after reading her memoir, you realize that Butterfly is the album that means so much as you're talking about Butterfly, because she likes, you know, she's always choosing like really cheesy album titles, like Arm Bracelet and stuff like that. But I think Butterfly is kind of her symbol, but it's also so much about like her coming out of her cocoon, because you realize that her image and her music choices were so heavily controlled by Tommy Mottola when they were married. And when you read her book, you realize that there's just how unhappy she was. And so I think that in 97, when she came out with that album, it was about her embracing her sexuality, her having control over her life and her image again. You know, I think of that video where she looks like a Bond girl in the nude swimsuit and the Honey video, and she's dancing around semen, which oddly enough just was a realization to me a couple of weeks ago. I didn't understand the context of that song. I was a little sheltered growing up, and so it blew my mind. So, I mean, I learned so much from this particular podcast. And what I will say is going on just like I have people I think sometimes write off Mariah because she's had mental health issues. And I think that you have to really look at her in the context of even the 90s, but she goes on, she was, you know, selling huge records in the 2000s as well. But if you really just look at her discography and you realize that she was kind of the golden age of these like pop divas, she was standing on her own with Whitney, with Toni Braxton, you know. And so the way that we think of like Adele being this powerhouse pop house, Adele is successful, but you also have to realize that Adele is successful in just like a room full of maybe like one Adele, whereas like Mariah Carey was such a huge pop star in a room full of other huge pop stars. And so I had to give tremendous respect to her as an artist. And in addition to that, I think 97, I was about 12, and my older cousin who I like worshipped was just playing this album on loop. She's a huge Mariah Carey fan. And so I think a lot of times when I think about this album, I think about the summer that we spent together and just how much fun we had. And it's got great tracks aside from Honey. You've got Breakdown that she does with Bone Thugs and Harmony, which is a smash.
Oh yeah.
Covers Prince's Beautiful Ones. And so it was very, very hard for me to pick just one album, but I think Butterfly is the one that I went with for my number 2. It hit all the right notes for me.
Wow. First of all, Rhoda, thank you for the soundbite you provided for this podcast to promote it. And I think, you know, Rhoda, you hit on something that, like, let's just talk about it really quick, being that we're recording this album we're recording this podcast during May, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And like, we really should be, like you said, that she kind of gets dismissed, but we really should celebrate artists like Britney Spears and Mariah Carey, who like, it's like been very well documented, like the stuff that they've gone through and just persevered through. And I always think of that. It's not R&B, but I always think of the Depeche Mode song, Walking in My Shoes. Like, you'd stumble in my footsteps if you tried to like live this kind of life. And they stumbled, and we watched them stumble, but they also get back up, and they keep going, and they really mean a lot to people who have had those same struggles. So thanks for bringing that up. I think it's really important.
For sure.
Awesome. Okay, so we got my number 2. I almost like went into our next little segment here. So my number 2, I listened to this last night, and I almost started sending text messages like, "Hey, what you doing?" Like, somebody get here now. Sade's Love Deluxe.
Yes.
That was on my short list. That was really hard to remove.
Sade's Love Deluxe is like, I was like, okay, maybe this is the first song that's really good. Oh no, the second song, goddamn, the third song, the whole album is so good. And it is a complete, like I said, it is a mood. I was like, let me see. When was the last time I took it was bad, you guys. It was bad, but it was good. And then, like, nobody knows it. And I almost took a picture of it last night, but I was at an open mic last night at Vince's in West Sacramento, and in the men's bathroom they have a Love Deluxe poster.
Nice.
It's always so random when I walk out. I'm, why is that here? And last night I actually moved it, because like every time I see it, like the Mexican in me is like, I'm gonna fucking steal that. Like, and last night I did the test to say, and it's not mounted well. It's not mounted really well. But it's way in the back. Like, if there's like, I'm looking to see if there's like a side exit. But you'd have to walk through the bar with it. So like,
if you wait late enough at Vince's, you might be able to pull it off. You just gotta wait.
To see if like if there's if a fight breaks out, I think that would be the time.
The opportunity.
Because any good criminal knows that you need a diversion in order to pull off.
Yes.
You know, Ivy knows exactly what was up. She's like, I'll go start a fight for you, motherfucker.
I grew up in Hayward. What do you want?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you're alive, right? Like,
I made it.
Sade's Love Deluxe is my number 2. So now,
can we just talk for a quick second about how like fucking
as much as you want, go for it.
Beautiful Sade is, and just how like whenever I watch videos of her on YouTube and stuff, I'm always just like, you know, she's just so, I mean, even today, she's just like stunningly gorgeous. And that voice, goddamn.
It's so smooth, right? And some more Sade news, Rhoda, you might know that she just put out a box set of like, it's called like Sade Complete Works or So Far, right? But here's the cool thing that everyone found out, like when they're like, I was watching all these unboxing videos, because that's my life. I watch like, I watch old white guys unbox records. And the Sade unboxing video, the guy pointed out that it's got all 6 of her studio albums, and it's just like in this perfect little box that fits right. But he pointed out, he's like, look, you guys, there was a foam mat like that, like a spacer that left room for another record, and like it's got a question mark on it. So it's like there's room in there to put one more record. So it obviously she's gonna have something soon, because why would she go through the trouble of doing that?
That part
to foreshadow it. So Sade, I got on a Sade kick last night. Watched a bunch of interviews, and yeah, she's awesome. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Facebook, and I'm going to read. So I always like to post on there to see kind of, well, really to like hopefully like help me compile my list, because sometimes I'm like at a blank. And I'll put it out to Facebook and I'll see. So here's some people's list. Some of you guys know some of these people. Jessica Roberts, her number 5. So going from 5 to 1, Jessica Roberts says, what's the 411, Mary J. Blige? Number 4, who is Jill Scott? Words and Sounds, right? Number 3, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Number 2, Love Deluxe Sade. Number 1, Erica Badu, Baduism.
Oh,
Yeah, yes.
Baduism was definitely on my short list too. That Erica
Or-
Badu is
Robert Berry couldn't follow directions, so we're not going to. My friend Marcy Rojas tried to say only Lauryn Hill, but I forced her to give a couple more, and she said, okay.
I'm almost wondering if everyone's gonna have the same number 1, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's almost happened once. So Marcy says, Brandy, Aaliyah 1 in a Million, Erica Badu, Baduism Live, Mary J. Blige, and let's see, Stephanie Chapman Darrow, one of my favorite. She just posts stuff. I don't know what she does, but she has these hilarious posts all the time. She says the no particular order, Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool, Mariah Carey Daydream, Janet Jackson Janet, and Tony Braxton's Self-Titled. So what we'll stay with you, Rhoda. What are some of your also rans or some of your honorable mentions, albums that they didn't make your top 5, but you want to say a sentence or 2 about them?
Albums that were on my short list. I feel like you can't get through 90s R&B stars without mentioning Brandy and Monica. Miss Thing by Monica was such a fucking jam. Brandy had 2 albums that were really hard to remove from my list. They were Never Say Never, as well as I think it's just her self-titled album, because those were teenagers at the time when I was a teenager. So they were singing about a lot of stuff that I found relevant to my life. And then, of course, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing The Boy Is Mine. That is to this day on tons of my like playlists. It's always there. Everybody knows it. You have to pick whether you're Monica or Brandy. And I think, in talking about like forgotten timelines, I think a lot of people sleep on Brandy a little bit because you realize that she had one of the biggest albums at a time. She did a couple movies, one of them with Diana Ross. She had Moesha.
Yeah.
I loved Moesha. I fucking loved that show. So those were Mary J. Blige is like, What's the 411? Real Love is such an amazing song. I'm going down the cover. She does that. Rose Royce album is amazing. Rose Royce song is amazing. But I feel like if it was it Family Affair where it's No More Drama, I feel like that was like her diamond, but that came out in the early 2000s. I always loved Janet Jackson, but as far as artists, I really tried to stick with the artists that really resonated to me and had a story behind each album to me. And so those were definitely my honorable mentions.
Awesome. Nicole, what are some of your honorable mentions?
One I'm going to throw in there, speaking of The Boy Is Mine, is Monica's debut album, because she really does have an amazing voice, and people kind of forget about her sometimes too. Another one I am going to throw in there is Faith Evans. She did some really amazing work.
Yes.
Yeah, just her voice is still amazing. Like, she did work with Whitney Houston on one of Whitney's final albums. Amazing stuff that kind of gets lost because there were so many great R&B artists at the time.
All right. Ivy, do you have some also rants?
I do. I have 2, right? I have En Vogue, Funky Divas. Because
that was on my too.
Again, more female empowerment, like free your mind. Like that was crazy for me to hear. Like, that doesn't mean that I'm a prostitute. Like hearing that in 6th grade, I was like, I'm
not allowed to be angry like that. I love that.
Neither am I. Oh my God, they're speaking to me. And just, like that, like just their whole, like, bad bitch persona, and also them being on, they had a cameo. Okay, I don't know if I'm aging myself. I feel like I'm the oldest person in this room. So I'm going to be 40 on next Saturday. So that's my demographic, right? And so do you guys remember that show In Living Color?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
En Vogue had a cameo in that skit, Wanda. Remember, like Wanda, what Jamie Foxx was before he became Jamie Foxx, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I remember in that skit, like En Vogue, they played themselves, and Wanda played the person that they kicked out of En Vogue. And they had a whole thing about that. And they were like, never gonna get it, never gonna get it. And then Wanda goes, God, me and my
Oh,
sister
Rock
quoted
Your
that.
World.
Right? That floated, dude. Like me and my sister, we quoted that to each other. Sorry, watery eyes, like for years. And the other one that didn't quite make the list because I think she was on the tail end of the '90s was Kelly Price.
Oh yeah, she's a good one.
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I listened to was probably just like barely on this side of 1999 because I remember listening to that song "As We Lay," which is like the ultimate like side chick hot slut anthem. You know, after He's Mine. But because I think she only had one album that was like in the straight up 90s. It was like her debut album was in 1998, and then all the other stuff was sort of after that, which is why she didn't quite make that list. But you know, Kelly Price did get her start in the 90s. Like she's fantastic, underrated in my opinion.
I think I have three also rans. One is like when I first thought of this list, I was hoping that this album came out in 1990, and I didn't want to check. I didn't want to check it, so I started compiling my list. I realized it did not come out in 1990. It came out in 1988, and that is Karen White's self-titled album. It's got like Superwoman.
I love that song.
Superwoman.
I'm not that kind of girl. You can tell me that everything's okay.
Yes.
Jesse, I had to.
I love that record. It's so good from top to bottom. It's such a great record. It's got some early New Jack. It's got like an early New Jack swing vibe to it. Very very similar to TLC's debut album, which I kind of felt like TLC's debut was more New Jack than R&B. But I was like, if all three of the TLC albums end up on this list, I was fine with it. I also had just because like I fucking love Whitney Houston so much. Her Your Love album, is it called Your Love? But it's the album that starts off with "This is the heartbreak."
That is my number one. I'll talk about that later.
Oh my God. You said you'd be home. No, my God. I love that record. But like it's good like 3/4 of the way through. And then like I'm like, that's one of those records where I'm like, you could have chopped 3 songs off this record and it would be a banger all the way through, which is something that was very problematic in the 90s. What like once they went from album to CD and they went from like 55 minutes to 72 minutes, like they felt that they absolutely had to fill up all that time. And like, I don't think it's necessary. It's like Fleetwood Mac Rumors, fucking 53 minutes, like Pink Floyd. Go for it, Rhoda.
That was actually a note that I made. Lots of filler.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
90s
like
albums,
skits, right?
Yeah.
The skits weren't like sometimes when I go back and I listen to these records, like I'm like, especially like when I listen to them like on iTunes, I'm like, fuck, I wish I could cut out this 2-minute skit. Unless it's the Mad Rapper or the Mad Producer. Those guys are
right.
I don't want to listen to the 2-minute intro to Going Back to Kelly by Biggie. I just want to listen to Going Back to Kelly.
Exactly. And another one that I wanted to put on the list, but just the same way as Mariah, I was like, am I doing this just because I'm such a big fan? But Babyface is all over Madonna's Bedtime Stories album. And that album is so smooth from beginning to end. So I wanted to put Madonna's Bedtime Stories on the list, but I didn't, just because like I would not shut up about Madonna if I did. And do
you feel like that was kind of the album where people had to stop referring to her as like a one-hit wonder, or like that she was not, that her appeal was not lasting? Do you feel like that's the album that kind of shut up those haters?
That's the album that like I go back to. Like I have like so much of her stuff, but like that's the album. And you're right, it's like it's got pop, it's got everything on it. But I think like without Babyface, I don't think she'd be able to have delivered that album.
Is that the one that has Take a Bow on it?
Yes.
I fucking love that song, but I also remember like the video where the 90s is also huge. Like I feel like we have to consider the music videos, because we had talked about Waterfalls and the Honey video, but I feel like I really love that video because like I was always remember the bullfighter and that it was a really pretty video.
But Babyface's background vocals on Take a Bow.
Yeah.
Man.
That is a great choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we ready to reveal our number ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you
Pretty
ready?
sure Nicole and I have the same one.
All right. Nicole, what do you have at number one?
Okay, I'm gonna be a bit long-winded with this because it is my love letter to Lauryn Hill. I think I think the first time I ever saw her was in Sister Act 2. And first of all, that's another great soundtrack album. A lot of great talent on that. So many amazing voices. Lauren singing His Eye is on the Sparrow, almost a cappella, is a beautiful, beautiful thing. She did great work with the Fugees. The score is an amazing, awesome album. Her cover of Roberta Flack is awesome. We all know which song I'm talking about, Killing You Softly. And then The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill had so many amazing, iconic songs on it. The video for X Factor, I could have picked this album just for X Factor alone. The video is just like her chilling and singing, and it's still an amazing video. It's just a lot of talent and her just being herself. I mean, there was doo-wop in there. There was Everything is Everything, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. It's almost like a little bit of like a throwback, and I just love her voice. I love that album so much.
Yeah, it's a great album. I doubt we're done talking about it. Does anyone want to add anything to that, or are you waiting? Okay. Ivy, what do you have at number one?
So number one was really hard because, like I said, I was very close to making Whitney's My Love Is Your Love my number one, just because of It's Not Right, But It's Okay, which is another slutbag hoe anthem, which I love, by the way. I could do a whole thing about those songs alone, like side chick anthems. Not that it's something that my real life involves, but it's just like the fact that I'm, an adult now and I grew up on all those hoe anthems. I'm just like, oh, I get it. Right. But no, because there was such a, like you said, Jesse, there were only so many good songs on that album. I have to bring up another Janet album, which is The Velvet Rope. That was, so to me, that was an album. I think I was sophomore, junior in high school when this came out. And so listening to Free Zone, there's other songs like Got Till It's Gone, Together Again, which is, talks about death and things of that nature. I Get Lonely, Go Dee Wee, Go Dee, yeah, just stuff like that, right? It was probably, and I think this one has a special significance to me because this is the album that came out around the time that I started driving. So it's just I always had something like this in the car, or just, it was always on the airwaves, and just such a good, such a good bunch of concepts just in this album alone. Velvet Rope, come on, that's Rope Burn, bitch. It's so good. It's so good. As Ivy in 1997 was a huge fan of it. Ivy at almost 40 is still a huge fan of it, especially Got Till It's Gone.
Yeah, isn't it great to have an album that it means one thing to you at one age, and then at another age, its themes, you're like, oh shit, that was totally over my that was totally over 17-year-old Ivy's head, and 39-year-old Ivy, you're like, oh, this bitch is my sister,
Yeah, right? Exactly. Because when she's talking about Rope Burn, I'm just like, do they mean tug of war? And then I lost my virginity, and I was like, oh, I get it. I understand this concept better now.
I'm learning all kinds of, I'm like, what? When me realizing that Mariah's dancing around semen, I'm like, what? I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this podcast is educational.
See, I think with Janet, you look, and I think not so much Whitney, but Janet, Mariah for sure were someone that were coming up in the 80s, which was so much about just making them look like squares with frizzy hair. And especially when you realize Janet's lineage and her family's history, and that her mother really tried to fight against her, strong independence, and really wanted her to kind of be like a chanteuse. And especially I think in the late 90s, Janet really came in to be like, fuck these blazers. And she always has a weight problem too. And so she was just like, I'm fucking hot now. Everyone look at how hot I am.
I think she discovered her hotness
too.
She definitely discovered her hotness. I want to say with the Janet album, because I think that was also around the time that there was that rumor that she had ribs removed so that her six pack would be more prominent, which is, in retrospect, the dumbest shit I've ever heard. But, I think that was when she came into her own. And one of the things I remember the most about Velvet Rope, and I thought about it, especially since so this year I've celebrated 11 years in therapy, and so thank you. And when I looked at Janet's album again, and I read the article about it in Wikipedia, it made so much more sense to me because I think this was the first album that she did after I think she experienced like an emotional breakdown, like long-term depression, and this was actually a concept album. And the title, like I think even it says it on Wikipedia, like the title is actually a metaphor for boundaries, which just as well as as well as alluding to somebody's need to feel special. And so all the tracks reflect that. And also just the combination, I think, of social issues with sexual orientation and all that kind of stuff. I think it was because of this album, if I recall correctly, I think it was this album that made it established her reputation as like a gay icon. And I think she got like the GLAAD Media Award for like an outstanding song or music or one of those two things. But this is probably like the most emotional album that she created, as opposed to like all the other ones that were mostly fun. And Rhythm Nation was like also socially conscious, but this one I think was more inwardly emotional in nature. So
I think it's a huge testament to Janet too, that she is able to stand. We were talking about like Kelly Rowland, Beyonce, the shadow of Beyonce, but
yes,
Janet was able to stand aside from her brother. When you think of the Jacksons, the first two that you would maybe like Michael and Janet. And so I think it's really a testament to her star power that she's able to stand alone from her brother, who's the king of pop. And so she's definitely like an icon.
Can I admit something? Me and my cousin actually learned the choreography for the song Scream.
Oh, please. Please.
I was just about to segue into, let's go ahead and talk about.
They do Rhythm Nation. I love the thing where they like lift up their shirt.
Yes.
Or if. Yeah, shit like that.
But I was just about to segue into like, let's just talk for a minute or two, I don't care, about what it was like waiting for that Scream video to come out. And like, I guess like Ivy and I might be the only ones to remember like it like debuting, and I'm old enough to remember, like I remember like reading the Rolling Stone article, like it was on Michael Jackson's greatest hits, and there was finally going to be a song with Michael and Janet together. And then the video debuted, and about a minute and a half into the video, we finally get what we've been waiting for, is Michael and Janet dancing side by side. And it did not disappoint. It is
so good.
Amazing. Yeah.
I remember watching the countdown to VH1. They did the little documentary before they released the video. I remember watching that.
Oh, you do? Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. There's some good stuff. Okay, where are we at? Are we Rhoda? Your number one? Rhoda,
okay.
What is your number one?
I think it's no surprise that my number one is also Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. This album was dropped on my 13th birthday, August 25th, 1998. So I was super enthused about it. And just, I think the late 90s was very much a time of like me coming online as a person, trying to figure out what I liked on my own and what I wanted to aspire to and to be. But in the same way that I was talking about some of the albums on the list are very 90s, this one is classic. This came out in 1998, but I still see its lasting impact. And I think that it's a number one album on two of our lists, maybe three, we shall see. That it's really kind of her only album that she releases by herself, but it is that huge. And the downside of it, I would say the things that I don't like about it are the sketches, and we had talked about a lot of sketches in the 90s. There were a lot of them on Crazy Sexy Cold too. But I think that when you really sit down and spend time with the album, which I recommend listening to it, just in its entirety and really paying attention, is you see that she talks so much about like trying to break away from her own, that she was leaving the Fugees, and the history between her and Wyclef Jean, and the love and the loss and moving on, and the way that fame is affecting her at this point in her life, and the way that what it takes to be a star transitioning into the spotlight on your own, but also what it means to be like growing as a woman, what she talks about with Zion. And her voice and she's so fucking gorgeous. Nicole was talking about the X Factor video, and it really is just Lauryn Hill singing, and she's so fucking beautiful and mesmerizing. And if we want to talk, and doo-wop is just like the banger forever. Everybody knows all the words to it. And if we're talking about lasting impact and the fact that it's a timeless album that we all know won a shit ton of Grammys, and I think the legend behind that it kind of was in some ways her swan song, because she became the myth, like, of a J.D. Salinger kind of character moving forward after that. So it's, you give us this one beautiful, amazing gift, and then we're always waiting for the next one, and I'm pretty sure it's never going to come. But I really see the impact when I listen to Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. There is no way you cannot use that reference as an inspiration to that album. Beyonce sang X Factor when I went to her On the Run tour, and was just such a beautiful, amazing song. And I think that Lauryn Hill herself is such an inspiration to so many iconic artists that we love today. And so I just think that it's so hard to that was just not a difficult number one for me at all.
Yeah, that was awesome. Shout out Amy Winehouse. She's up there.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
There she is. Shout out Amy Winehouse. Did you write this shit out? Oh.
I love music. I'm crazy about it.
I know. That's why I dig you so much, man. Real quick side note, I posted on Facebook and I asked it, were you Team Monica or Team Brandy? And Dana Bryant came with, I'm Team both, where they dump that clear loser, go to brunch, and become BFFs. So
where they dump Mekhi Phifer?
That's lovely.
We should talk about 90's boyfriends sometime.
I didn't have any.
So like a fuckboy podcast? Like a 90s fuckboy podcast?
I mean, I'll moderate it for you guys.
Mekhi Phifer will be on there. You got Tyson Beckford from the Unbreak My Heart video.
On the motorcycle?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Or Love Would Never Do Without You, Antonio Sabato Jr. And was that Tyson on Love Would Never Do Without You, too? Or...
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to Google it right now.
I just remember Antonio.
Who was the guy in that Love Will Do Without You video?
Let's see.
Oh, they only talk about that dude that was married to Kimora Lee for like a minute.
Iman Hewson.
Thank you. I was like, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but yes.
Oh, he's beautiful. Good Lord.
What? Speaking of night, whatever happened to Lorenz Tate? Remember, he was just.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He was gonna be.
I saw him on the Mindy Project. He doesn't age. He's on Girls Trip.
Was he?
Yeah, he doesn't age. He looks good.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's still in the movie. He's still in TV.
My number one is also Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, because so like we touched on it a little bit of like, what if Aaliyah had gotten to release her third or a fourth album, And when Lauryn Hill did the Miseducation, like she already had like Sister Act, she had 2 Fuji albums under her belt. So like when she goes into the studio to record the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, like she's lived a lifetime in that 10 years, And so like growing up, like from like a hip hop rap perspective, like I was like, is it going to be a hip hop album? Is it going to be an R&B album? And when she like comes out just spitting fire and like dissing Wyclef, where she says, everything you do has already been done. I know all your tricks from bricks to Kingston. I was like, shit. Like, and then it's like the album kind of like opens with that. And then just like, she's like, okay, now that I've aired my dirty laundry and put him out to dry, let me just fucking drop this fire R&B album and just show like that I was the talent of the Fugees, right? Well, they were all talented, but she really was the star. I like to brag about cool things that I've done, but I'm going to tell you guys one of the stupidest things I've ever done, okay? Sit down, relax, listen to this. We traded Lauryn Hill tickets for Marilyn Manson tickets. And
Are you high?
just left. Look,
Nicole's so disappointed she bounced. Look what you did, Jeffy.
what the fuck?
She's so disappointed in you. She doesn't want to be here.
What happened?
I don't know.
She's like, goodbye.
She's like, you're fired. I'm negating this entire show right now.
Okay, wait, she's coming back. Wait, she's gonna give me a second chance.
Oh my God, this thing. Nicole.
There she is. She's back.
Were you so upset you left?
I tried to do it as a joke, but accidentally shut it all the way and I got locked out. But anyway, that was to show my very, very high level of disappointment right there.
Jesse, if it makes you feel better, one of my biggest regrets was there was this San Francisco pizza joint that used to be a nightclub called Pop Scene on Thursdays. I don't know if it's still around anymore, but I blew off my friends and flaked on Amy Winehouse.
Oh, what the?
And I would have been like real close to her.
Damn.
So you're not alone in stupid choices.
Okay. I did see the Fugees on the Smoking Grooves tour, and it was like Cypress Hill, Ziggy Marley,
Damn.
Fugees, Tribe Called Quest, and I think Erykah Badu. So Erykah, like the 90s is real fuzzy. I know I saw Erykah Badu, but I get confused if it was at a Lilith festival or at that Smoking Grooves tour. But that show was amazing. Nas came out and did If I Ruled the World with Lauren. And but I did get to see the Fugees at peak Fugidom. So I really thought Lauryn Hill was going to be around touring forever. I knew Marilyn Manson was like a ticking time bomb, and it was okay. I'm gonna try to.
I could see how you get to that conclusion. To be honest with you,
it was Marilyn Manson whole co-headlining tour, but Marilyn Manson fourth song of the set falls off of a speaker and busts his ankle, does one more song, and then leaves. And so it was a bust. We didn't get to see Lauryn Hill. Haven't seen her ever since then. But yeah, so my number one album is Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That opening track is just like nothing opens that fire, that scathing. It's great on all levels, and I don't think I could really add anything more to it after all the great things that Nicole and Rhoda have said about it. So, okay, guys, gals, now we're going to agree on what the top 5 are, and I'm just gonna let me give me a second here to look at this list and take down some quick notes. Where'd my pen go? Okay, so my pen is right here. Hold on one second. You can talk amongst yourselves if you'd like, but I think that okay, so Crazy Sexy Cool got mentioned a couple of times.
Yep.
And of course, Lauryn Hill got mentioned a couple of times. Did anything else get mentioned a couple of times?
Mariah
Mariah got mentioned.
Definitely on there, but she's
different.
The album is differing.
Maybe pop.
So let's talk. We'll talk about that. And Janet got mentioned a couple of times, but it also was different albums.
Yeah.
And okay, so if we do this, okay, so we have 2 for sure. Do we want to say, I'm going to say, oh, what about the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack? Did that only get mentioned once?
We did talk about it a lot, though.
We did.
I would be fine with putting that on the list.
Yeah. I think a lot of people in the Facebook post also mentioned it.
Yeah. Ivy, how did it not end up on your list when you brought it up to begin with?
Because somebody else said it. I didn't realize we could talk about multiple albums from different points of view. Like I was just like, okay, somebody mentioned it. I'm gonna write. I had a bunch of backups. I guess I misunderstood too because I had a bunch of backups in case somebody mentioned the one that I was gonna talk about.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, Waiting to Exhale Emily is one of them. So for
Okay.
sure.
All right. Okay. It's getting not as hard.
I think it covers a lot of the ladies that we love from the 90s on it too.
It really does.
Totally.
It does. Do we want to? Okay, so we have, if we go TLC, Lauryn Hill, Waiting to Exhale, then it seems that we could slip in our favorite Mariah and our favorite Janet Jackson. But then we're not going to, then not making the list would be groups like Brownstone, Escape, SWV, Tony Braxton, Sade, Destiny's Child, Aaliyah. How do you guys feel about a top 5 list without Aaliyah or without Tony Braxton?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I feel like I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
But I also have a hard time believing that it's possible. I also have a hard time believing it's possible to do a top 5 list and not include Escape. Or SWV, really. Like, it's hard.
Do we want to put, okay, if we're putting Mariah in, do we want to put Mariah's self-titled? Are we cool with that?
I think her debut album is good because it was just like, who's this person? Who's this voice? What the fuck?
It really was, right? Especially when she hit that high note in Vision of Love. Okay.
Someday. Like, just, I feel like that screaming goat every time we all try to do it. And you know that we all do it in the car, okay? Like, anybody that says they don't try to hit Mariah's whistle register when they're singing by themselves in the car on the way back from the laundromat or what have you. I point too when I do it, like, someday. Like that goat.
Yeah.
What Janet Jackson record do we want to represent Janet Jackson?
I would vote for Janet. 93 Janet.
Oh yeah, okay. Over Velvet Rope. Ivy seems really attached to Velvet Rope.
I love Velvet Rope, but I think I like Velvet Rope for like emotional reasons that spoke to me and my future love of BDSM that I hadn't figured out when I was still in high school. Okay. So, but I feel like call me. I feel like the Janet album is the one that embodies like the spirit of the 90s to me. You know, because, you know, again, it's like being with your girlfriends, having a good time, abandoning dudes in the desert, like just fun stuff, you know.
That's the Way Love Goes is also like a banger supreme. Like that song is so good. Have you ever heard it covered by NSYNC?
I was gonna bring that up. That was such a sexy version.
The video is sexy too. They just emulated her video, but she was, and she's really pretty.
What if then we did? What if the list went top number 5? Mariah Carey's self-titled. Number 4, Janet Jackson self-titled. Number 3, Waiting to Exhale. Number 2, TLC. Number 1, Lauryn Hill.
I would be fine with that.
You're fine with that? And we got some also rounds of like Escape. Who else did you say? Oh, SWV are also rounds. All right. That wasn't so bad to settle on the top 5. Mariah Carey's self-titled, Janet's self-titled, Waiting to Exhale. That's got really represents everybody that kind of got left off the list. The TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool, and Lauryn Hill's debut solo. And man, that was some list. Thank you guys so much for taking time on a Saturday morning to record this. I had a lot of fun. How'd you guys feel?
This was amazing. I think it was a really, it was a really, 1, it was informative, 2, very nostalgic, and 3, like, I'll be listening to this music all the way back to Hayward because I'm in Oakland right now. So thank you for having us on here and allowing us to talk about, not only the music that brought us back to like certain moments in our life, but also, allowing us to each touch on the emotional impacts that each of these albums made on our lives, like growing up and now.
Yeah. Growing up is hard, man. And like, we are blessed that there's some good music to accompany us on that trip. And then to look back and still accompany us, especially like how you were mentioning, Ivy, that like it meant one thing to you in junior high and it means another thing to you in as an adult. And it's great. It's great. Thank you guys so much for coming out. You didn't go anywhere. for joining me on Zoom. Rhoda, you're on the Moving Van show tonight?
Yep, I'll be on the Moving Van show this evening. Next week, I'll be at the Milk Bar.
Nice.
Come on down.
Yeah, Ivy, you got so much going on.
Yeah. Just you know, if you guys aren't on my Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. I put all my dates there. Tonight's going to be one of those rare nights where I'm not doing a damn thing and it feels awesome. But you know, I think the biggest thing I want to plug is that I am back at Cobb's on June 6th for the Talking After Sets show. So it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be really, really fun. If you guys are in the Bay Area, please come say hi.
Talking After Sets with Austin Carr. It is such a fun show, and it's kind of like this because like you do your set, and then you just like every comic just hangs out after their set. They just sit out, and it's a lot of fun.
So exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Nicole, we'll see you around. How's Willie coming back? Willie Listen?
Yeah, we're doing Willie Listen live again from Stab. I'm co-hosting that. I'm co-hosting Dr. Dunning and Mr. Kruger. We're looking for a set time now. That's about it for comedy. Doing some other art and writing stuff. How about you, Jesse?
I just got I got a message yesterday from Brian Krall asking us if telenovela is ready to jump back on stage, and we're super excited about that. I finally I started going to open mics again. I thought I wanted to stop doing comedy, but I was just really depressed.
We all go through it.
Yeah, and I got back on stage the other night and it felt so fucking good. I've done like 5 mics in the last 5 or 6 days, and I can't wait. Like I was excited about going to Vince's. Like that's how I was like, yay, Vince's. And I like put my name last because I wanted to watch everybody and I just wanted to absorb it all. I booked a show. Nothing's permanent yet, but I think I booked a show for mid-June, and I got a show booked for July. So hopefully there'll be some more. And of course, there's gonna be telenovela and the podcast. So I got plenty to keep me busy. Shut up. I don't know, my watch was talking. All right, you guys, thanks so much. And this was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you guys.